The fancy camera. Yeah.
Erev Tov, everyone. B'nai Yisrael. The Torah records for us in this the second parsha this week the travels of the Jewish people from Mitzrayim to the borders of Eretz Yisrael. And the Torah lists all of them, over 40 places that they were at. Why does the Torah do that? What significance is it to us? So there are different streams in the Meforshim how to look at this. Rashi is of the opinion that Moshe wanted to remind them of incidents that happened at every station of the way. The way a parent reminds a child that when we were here, then you had a headache. When you were here, you took sick. When you were here, we had... So that the past is not forgotten. You should remember what happened. The Balei Kabbalah looked at every one of the way stations, and they saw it in a Kabbalistic sense. Different levels of holiness, of ascent and descent in spirituality. And based on what the Gemara says, that Amokum Goreh, the geography, the place that you're at, has an influence. The Gemara says climate has an influence. There's no doubt in my mind that the Muslim movement developed in snowy, cold, dark Lithuania, and it did not develop in the sunny Middle East. They're influenced by it. I remember myself that moving from Chicago to Miami, so they had 300 days a year sun, no snow, no cold. So you feel differently. So too it's spiritually. So Amokum Goren, that's why all of these places are mentioned. But there's another idea, a third stream that I think is very important. And that's the Torah tells us not the past only, but the Torah tells us the future as well. When the Gemara says Masei Avot Siman Lebanim, they're not just talking about Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They're talking about the whole vast panorama of the past, which gives us a glimpse into the present and into the future as well. And therefore the Torah keeps on saying, Vayisu Vayachanu, Vayisu Vayachanu. In some places it says Vayavo. What's the difference? So Vayavo is obviously that was only temporary in their eyes. They came there, but that's not where they're going to be. But Vayachanu means that they settled there. And Rashi points out that in one way station, they settled for 38 years. 38 out of the 40 years, they were in one place. So that became the story of the Jewish people throughout the ages. There were places that we came to that we knew were only temporary. And there were places that we came to that we thought were permanent. that Vayachanu. And if you look again at the panorama of Jewish history, so we were in Bovel, the Jewish community was in Iraq for 1,000 years. So that's Vayachanu. And if you were to ask some Jew that lives in Iraq, after 800 years, are you going to be in Iraq? He was, sure, I'm going to be in Iraq. And he wouldn't believe you if you would tell him that he's not going to be in Iraq. And then in Mitzrayim, the Jews in Mitzrayim were from the time of the Bayis Sheni, even from the time of the Bayis Rishon. There was a Jewish settlement in Mitzrayim. And Yirmiyahu Novi was in Mitzrayim until Nasser, until 56 and 67. I think there are 40 Jews left in Egypt today. And then we were in North Africa, and we're still there today, in Morocco. So the Jews were there from the time of the Romans. And from there we went to Spain. And from Bovel, there were Jews that for business went to Europe, to France. They were very small in number. There were maybe in the time of Rashi, there were maybe 5,000 Jews in France and Germany. And from them, the whole Ashkenazic world came. And then many times the Vayisu was not voluntary. The Jews were exiles from England. They were exiles from France. They had to keep on moving. That's how they came to Eastern Europe. And they're in Eastern Europe 800 years. So like if you're in Poland 800 years, you're always going to be in Poland. But that was not the case. The Torah tells us that in advance. So the Torah gave us an example. You were in one place 38 years, but you had to go from there. It's not a permanent place. And that goes to the heart of the matter that the Meforshim all deal with, but it's a very difficult subject. Is why is exile, Golus from Eretz Yisrael, a punishment? For vast sections of the Jewish people, it's not a punishment at all. It's opportunity, it's all sorts of things, but it's not seen as a punishment. Yet in the Nevi'im, we find that it is viewed only as a punishment. The same thing in the Torah. The Torah says you won't be able to live in Eretz Yisrael. So in this parsha of Maseh, these fundamental questions about the Jewish people and what happened to us over these thousands of years is reflected, it's detailed, it's present. And the Torah wanted us to be aware of that. So this idea of Hayisu Vayachanu is a permanent question by the Jewish people. And therefore, we are of the opinion that the Geula, the redemption physically and spiritually of the Jewish people. By the way, we see things that, in my youth were unimaginable. It was unimaginable that Jews would, Jews had a missile to kill Hitler, to knock out Stalin, to bomb Auschwitz, but we were powerless. You'll realize the shift that has occurred. So that's part of the Vayisu Vayachanu. And it is, in my opinion, no accident that this is the final parsha, really, of the Torah, because Chumash Devarim is Mishnah Torah. It's of a different quality. And so therefore it concludes Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazak. And look at the long journey you've taken. Look where you've been. Look what's permanent and what's temporary. And simply by looking and knowing and feeling and appreciating, so we are automatically strengthened by it. So we have to say it to ourselves. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what the next few days hold. But we never know that, except we think that we do. So the Rebbeinu Shalom puts us in a situation where it's clear that you don't know. Oh. So let's see what happens. So everything will be good and everything will be fine. And chazak, chazak, v'nis chazak. Rabbi Hananya ben Akash Omer, Ratzak HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'zakos es Yisrael lefichach yirbo lohem Torah mitzvos and Amar Adonai chafetz aman tzidko